So we're using a mixture of night vision and also white light just to try and try and keep your bearings.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we're checking out something from the British Army. Now it looks like we have a British Army Reserve Infantry unit doing some subterranean combat. Now I gotta say, this training it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun, but it's just very, very brutal, very unforgiving. Now, if you guys don't know, I did a subterranean combat course when I was in the Army, and I got to build off and kind of utilize a lot of my CQB skills. But I also learned very quick that subterranean combat requires a lot of different logistical concerns that I'm sure these guys are going to talk about. So, should be cool. Let's check it out. Okay, that's something that I didn't have to deal with, at least, is the amount of stairs that they're doing right here. Especially, that's not going to be fun with the 240 or whatever he's holding there. So yeah, this is pretty much what it always looks like when you're entering a sort of underground facility. And yeah, once you go past this, yeah, things start getting difficult, because you can see as well, the air quality is something you need to be monitoring. If there's like a sort of gas leak or something, again, the air quality is going to degrade very, very quickly. And yeah, it feels weird going into a facility like this and just entering it through this ominous sort of portal right here. Yeah, it definitely doesn't help with like the mental aspect of it. Yeah, and if there's no ambient lights, then night vision is still not going to help that much.
For some of the guys that have never seen it before, it's a big shock, because they're not used to working in a 130-acre underground system like that, with lots of wide caverns, but also tight corridors and small rooms as well.
Yeah, that's one thing. So the tight corridors, if you don't have like a ballistic shield, which is something that we didn't really implement like an actual ballistic shield into the training. It was kind of just like one of the plastic ones. But yeah, having a ballistic shield in something like this is going to help a lot. I think we saw it before with the Royal Marine Commandos. Their subterranean combat training looked pretty freaking solid. They seemed like they had a good lock on it. But yeah, those tight hallways are going to be super sketchy when it comes to survivability. And sometimes you'll have some really long stretches without any like, forks or turns or rooms, which is very different from CQB. Generally speaking, you're not going to be in the hallway too much. You can generally flow into a room pretty quickly. But when it comes to a tunnel, sometimes you have some really long straightaways, and yeah, it gets very sketchy, because obviously you don't want to just start sprinting down the tunnel to get to the next danger area.
So today we had a mixed team of Fusiliers from the 5th Battalion, Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, and then other units, and we were doing a company minus clearance of caution tunnels, clearing through various corridors and rooms against a terminal enemy using the simulation rounds.
Oh yeah, okay. Nice.
So
those are a lot of fun.
Massive, and it's perfectly possible to get a little bit disorientated, especially with the speed at which we're moving through there.
I think it's funny how Brits, instead of saying like they get oriented to an area, they get orientated. I don't know, it's just like a slight deviation, kind of like aluminium or whatever that is. Yeah, it is very, very true. If you don't have like some schematics, if you don't have any schematics, you're going to have a very bad time, and you should probably like get some schematics before you go in there. But if not, you're going to have to take it very slow and methodical, and you're going to have to almost use personnel as a like connecting file, I think is the phrase we use. But you need to have like these physical individuals to be able to tell you, hey, the exit is that way or the entrance is that way. And you could also start establishing other points along that sort of connecting file, whether it be, a casualty control point or what have you.
So good communication is key. So we're using a mixture of night vision and also white light just to try and keep your bearings and not get lost.
Chem lights help a lot too, just marking areas. Easier to find certain things.
It's important for us to be able to operate in any different type of terrain and have these different tools that we can plug and play, because in any type of terrain, whether it's rural, you might find some tunnel systems which people have dug, for example, when we go away on operations, and we also need to be competent in any different type of terrain. So that's why we train.
Okay, I think it's cool how they're showing like the PCC is that like a cleaning or unjamming rod he's got in there? I mean, I'm kind of like wondering, because I haven't seen someone put like an unjamming or cleaning rod in their kit like that. But I mean, I guess it'd be kind of helpful, especially for simunitions. I've not seen one get stuck in the barrel, but I guess it's the first for everything. And then maybe some flexi cuffs. So, okay, so they're using white lights so they're not getting lost. Yeah, that's pretty helpful. Yeah, like they're saying, communication is very important, and that's something else that can go down. We had like special radios. I think they were like Wi-Fi based radios as opposed to the normal like VHF or UHF that we would use. And those seem to work pretty good. But again, if you don't have like specific equipment, it's going to get kind of hard. So that's another thing with subterranean combat is you need to bring like this whole new wave of equipment that you weren't necessarily using as much or using at all prior to going to something like this.
When we go away on operations, and we also need to be competent in any different type of terrain. So that's why we train and try and focus equally on woods and forests, trenches, urban, subterranean like the terrain behind me, as well as rural and open ground. Navigation is a big challenge because there are lots of different directions and axes that we can advance in. The dark is a challenge. Some of it is lit up and most of it isn't illuminated. So we've got various bits of equipment that we need to practice with to help us get around. And also posting link men to pass on messages because nice. A lot of our communications equipment is severely restricted down there in the tunnels, so a lot of the messages get passed on via voice, and then we also have
so something that, I mean, it made it difficult for us just because we were rocking gas masks the entire time we were in there. Because again, air quality is something you want to be cognizant of. And, gas mask is definitely going to be something you might have to use, especially for a subterranean, type of environment. Depending on if it's one that's in use, it might have a specific use where the air quality is even more degraded. But this is something that a lot of people are focusing on now, because especially when you're talking about like a more modern or peer-to-peer combats, because you can imagine the enemy's absolutely going to exploit these types of facilities and putting certain military equipment in these types of facilities if the adversary or your force isn't going to want to send people into it. So it's nice to actually get the training now so you can kind of designate certain units maybe, or maybe in like certain companies or platoons who are somewhat proficient or at least familiar with working in this environment.
Mapping as well, so every so often the commanders will need to get their maps out and just confirm that we definitely are where we think we are, because a lot of it starts to look very similar down there.
Yeah, very true.
I joined 4th Battalion, the Mercian Regiment, which is a reserve battalion in the Mercian Regiment, and I joined that initially whilst I was at 6th Form in 2015, and then since then I ran that part-time alongside university and a war studies degree at the University of Wolverhampton, which went really well. I was able to balance being in the reserves and the commitments there and do as much or as little as I wanted and had time for, and got a chance to see lots of different countries along the way, which is very good. And then in the last 2 years they've been full-time, including testing people for COVID and training recruits and doing lots of really interesting things.
Okay, damn, sounds like he's got a pretty good experience out of it. Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about the British Army Reserves, to be honest. I've seen like a few videos of them, but it's awesome that they're getting this kind of training. I do kind of wonder how the British Army handles, like the subterranean combat, if they have like specific units that are designated for it, because that was kind of like the mindset with the U.S. Army. And again, we had the specialized people like the Asymmetric Warfare Group going out and assisting them. So we had like the sort of training foundation, but it wasn't necessarily like assigning that as a role. It's kind of just something that, some people were trained on, so they kind of had that experience. But again, like if you don't have that logistical support for it, it can fall apart pretty quickly. But it is kind of cool to see a reserve unit like doing that stuff, because that's stuff that'll kick any infantry unit's ass, because if they're not used to that and they realize that they don't have the right equipment for the job, or they don't have the right sort of TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures, it's going to be a very rough time. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys took part in this training or some other sort of similar training, let me know what kind of lessons learned you guys had, because I think with us, ballistic shields, very, very, I would say necessary in an environment like that. Otherwise, you're just gonna get like an entire stack lit up with a machine gun, and it's not gonna last very long. It's not gonna be very pretty, especially when you're trying to get that many people out of the tunnel for like medical care and stuff. So let me know what kind of lessons you guys learned. Yeah, it's a doozy. I can say that for a fact. It's fun, but it's very challenging, especially as a leader. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. That is it for this one. I'll see you on the next one.